Hello, welcome to Gardener's World. Well, here we are, we've arrived at November. And I always enter into this month with some trepidation because whatever it's like when you go in, you know when you come out the other end, it's going to be winter. But winter hasn't touched Longmeadow yet. It's still feeling remarkably benign. Everything is growing untroubled. However, I will today be packing up certain parts of the garden just in readiness for what I know is inevitable. Now is the perfect time to plant tulips. And Rachel gets inspiration from the world's largest bulb garden in Holland.
Each autumn, the team of gardeners here at Kokenhof plant a mind-boggling 7 million bulbs, and the result really is extraordinary.
Our gardens may be fading away into winter, but Carol is celebrating a group of plants just reaching their prime.
South African plants, bulbs and perennials, all dressed up in brilliant silks and scintillating satins.
And Joe is given a tour around the much-loved garden of Esther Rantzen.
This is one of those sort of gardens I think that everybody would love to have.
We wanted to get the feeling that the English countryside was being celebrated.
This pot has been flowering almost continuously from June, July, right through now into autumn. And I'm sure if I left it, and if the weather stayed as mild as it is, we would squeeze out a few more flowers. But they've done their major performance. So I'm going to empty it out and plant it up with a new set of plants that will carry me through winter into next spring. This is a dahlia called David Howard, by the way. It's got a wonderful, slightly apricot-y flower. And I'm going to cut it back, so if I just cut that off. But the great thing about dahlias and the canna in the middle is that if I store them properly over winter, they will flower even better next year. That can go to the compost heap. Now, around the base of the dahlias, I've planted a couple of annuals, so they can go to the compost heap and just be pulled out. Right, the canna is Canna Australia, and it has these really good chocolate leaves. Now, I just want to lift one of the dahlias out. Right. If I take the soil off, you can see there's a really good system of tubers. That is the harvest, if you like. And I want to preserve those, so we'll talk about how to do that in a minute. Now, I'm going to plant tulips in when I've cleared these out. And this is the time of year to do it. November is ideal, December is fine. But of course, there are so many tulips in this world, it's really hard to pick exactly the right ones. And sometimes you need to go and see them growing to get inspiration. And last spring, Rachel went to Holland to see one of the largest collections of tulips in the world.
Beautiful blooms stretching as far as the eye can see. This ocean of colour is just a few miles southwest of Amsterdam, and I've come here to visit the perfect place for tulips. Right in the middle of these impressive flower fields is the showpiece garden of Kokenhof.
Each autumn, the team of gardeners here at Kokenhof plant a mind-boggling 7 million bulbs, and the result are these swathes of colour all across the garden. It really is extraordinary.
This 80-acre garden was established in 1949 by Dutch bulb growers as a shop window. These beds are a living history of the tulip. When they were brought back from the Ottoman Empire, they were dainty like this, but they still drove the Dutch absolutely crazy in the 17th century. And these are the flowers of the future. New varieties like these are launched here every season by the ever-inventive Dutch growers.
Their efforts have helped to make this garden world famous. And if you want to choose tulips, as I do, this is definitely the place to come.
With over 1,600 different varieties of bulb on display, making a choice might feel a little overwhelming. But there's a couple of golden rules to help you along.
It's so easy to open a catalogue, look at a picture and say, that's the one, it's gorgeous. But there is a bit more to it, and I think the most important thing when I'm choosing them is when it's going to flower. And you find that as a general rule, the species tulips, the smaller tulips, tend to flower earlier. And as you can see, it makes a big difference between being fully in flower and perhaps a couple of weeks later, so you really need to think about what effect you're trying to achieve. The other thing then is height, and that's very important because if you've got, for example, box hedging around a bed, you want a tulip that can stand proud of that and be seen. And perhaps near the front of a border, you want something more petite, more delicate. And then finally, it's all about the colour, and you can really indulge yourself, whether you want these lovely, soft, feminine pastels or something with a bit more punch to it. Well, the world is your oyster with tulips.
There is a tulip for everyone. From singles to doubles, from the elegant lily-flowered to the decadent fringed and flamed varieties. And they come in every hue imaginable. Once you've chosen your tulip, consider how best to show off its charms.
Kokenhof is famous for its large blocks of solid colour, single tulips planted en masse, but it also has these wonderful intermingled planting schemes where it combines them with other spring bulbs. So here you've got this lovely early tulip. This is called Show Winner. And this bright scarlet is then combined with the magenta of a hyacinth. It shouldn't work, but it does. And also we've got fritillaries here for height. They just punctuate the bed. You've got little anemones. Another multi-headed tulip just coming through there. The whole thing together makes an incredible combination, and you have longevity because you've got things in flower now and things that are going to flower later on, so it continues. There's masses of inspiration here.
Before I plant the winter container flowers, I want to put some bulbs in. And as Rachel has shown us, tulips are the best bulbs for colour. This is a jewel garden. We need intensity of colour. And tulips need drainage. So I'm going to put a whole bucket of grit into this pot and work it in. Really good drainage. And the tulips I've chosen are both really dark. The first to flower will be Negrita. It's a good doer, it's reliable, it's got a nice tall stem, and that will flower mid-April. Then Queen of Night, which is really intense black, doesn't start to flower until May, and in this garden can go on flowering till June if it's as cold as it was last spring. So we'll put this here. Deep is always good with tulips. I've got a mixture of leaf mould and sieved garden compost. Potting compost would do just as well. We don't need to dig it in or work it in. Now my colour scheme is going to be silver and black going through to purple. And what I've gone for is euphorbia. This is Euphorbia coraceus silver swan, which I'm growing really for the foliage. So that goes in the middle. Now around the edge, I'm going to have a mixture of foliage and flower. This is what I was brought up calling Senecchia. It's now changed its name to Brachyglottis. And that will give me a good silvery, voluminous, cloudy feel to work in. Now, I want to pick up the purples and blacks, and I've got a grass in the borders that will do that perfectly. That's Ophiopogon, and it spreads really rapidly. I've got too much, so I can lift it out of the borders. It costs me absolutely nothing. You can see I could break it up into lots of different plants, but I can plant that in clumps, and that I'll put round the edge like that. The final element are these violas. This is Black Delight. And of course, these are flowering now and will go on flowering for months. But then the tulips will start to appear in spring and they will boss the pot right through. We decide to clear the whole lot out. These are hardy plants. And that's the great thing about a winter display. It stays constant, where of course in summer you expect it and want it to change. However, whatever size of arrangement you're doing in winter and whatever plants you choose, try and shelter them from the worst of cold wind and give them as much sun as you possibly can. Now, of course, we can get away with this quite muted palette because we know the tulips are there, and that next March they'll start to appear, and next April and May they'll be glorious. But Carol is looking at a set of bulbs from South Africa which are at their glorious best right now.
Just as you begin to feel that the onset of autumn is inevitable, you begin to submit to all those russety, orange, subdued tones that everything's tinged with. Along come a group of funsters just looking for the party. South African plants, bulbs and perennials, all dressed up in brilliant silks and scintillating satins. This is Hesperantha coccinea. Coccinea meaning red. Of course, there are all sorts of lovely hybrids, all the way through from white through pale pink, like this one, this is Pink Princess, to deep pink, to bright, unapologetic red. Lots of us know this plant as Schizostylis, and you can see why, because the style here is split into 3 separate parts. It's a member of the iris family, and it's such wonderful garden value because the flowers open and there are lots of them, meaning there's a long succession of flowers, sometimes for months. In fact, I've even picked flowers from this on Christmas Day. It was an Irishman, William Henry Harvey, who first brought these wonderful plants to the attention of British gardeners in the mid-19th century. He was colonial treasurer of the Cape of Good Hope, but he was hugely interested in flowers and plants, including algae. Just imagine what amazement he must have felt as he saw these strange and marvellous flowers. He compiled a list of the whole flora of the region together with James Backhouse, a famous bulbman. When you first see these flowers, they look so wonderfully exotic. It's difficult to believe that the plant's absolutely hardy. But of course, where they come from, it can be extremely cold and it can be very wet too. They absolutely love moisture in the soil. They move around and colonise, making vast clumps, and they do so by means of these marvellous roots. They're semi-bulbous. They make a little bulb at the base of the stem and then outspread these fine, fibrous feeding roots and also these bigger roots. And at the end of each one is a new shoot, just waiting to extend the colony. There are all sorts of wonderful plants for this time of year that come from South Africa, but many of them have quite different root systems. Things like this nerine, isn't it gorgeous? This is definitely a bulbous plant. Now, the bulbs are quite small at the moment because it's devoted all that energy into producing these flowers. think it's a marvellous idea to enrich your garden at this time of year with nerines fully in flower. You can see the colour, shape, form of the flower, and you can try things out, experiment. This one's Pink Surprise, and doesn't it look wonderful with the flowers of this fading Astrantia aroma? But I'm going to start off by planting this one. This is Nerine Bowdenii. It's named after a man called Cornish Bowden, who sent bulbs of it from South Africa to his mum in Newton Abbot. She grew them on, and then she sent them to Kew with the proviso that the plant was named after him. Now, you don't need grit with all bulbs, but certainly with something that needs excellent drainage like this, it's a good idea to add it to the planting oil first. Also, some compost. It's got lots and lots of loam in it, and that'll sustain and give the bulbs nutrients whilst they're growing. If I were buying dry bulbs, which I easily could, I would always pot them first of all, just to make sure that they're growing away strongly before I put them down into cold soil. So, without further ado, you want to make sure that the top of the bulbs is level, or even proud of the level of the compost, the soil round about. You don't want to bury them because that'll stop them from flowering so prolifically. And it's absolutely so vital that you plant your nerines in full sun. That's what they love. These South African plants bring a touch of the exotic, scintillating colour to the mists and mellow fruitfulness of autumn.
Is that what you want? Good boy. Right. Well, going from flowers that are relishing this time of year to storing away flowers that have done their thing, because now it's time to store the dahlias and the cannas that I took out of the pot so that they last through winter. Now here is the David Howard that I dug up earlier. The best thing to do is, when you lift your dahlias, is cut the stems down to about 6 inches. And then put them in some sort of container. A bucket would do, but upside down like that. And leave them like that for a few days. Now, what you're trying to do is to drain the moisture out of the hollow stems. Actually, these are nice and dry. They're not at all wet, so I can store these straight away. So just take off any real excess soil, but don't risk damaging the tubers. You can put them into a pot. I've got a big pot here, which actually I'm going to use for the canna later, but if you've just got one or two, a pot is absolutely ideal. If you've got a lot, then you're going to have lots of pots, and that's really difficult to store, so this is where boxes come in. You could use any kind of box. I mean, a wooden box, cardboard box. If it's strong enough, that's fine. So I put a bit of paper in there, stick that in. I'm going to get another one. Oh, this is a whopper. We need to put a protective layer around that. Old potting compost is good for that. Sand. What I'm going to use is vermiculite. Vermiculite is good, though, because it both drains really well, is insulating, and also holds a bit of moisture. Because the key to preserving dahlias is to not let them dry completely out, not let them sit in too much water, not let them get too warm, and not let them get too cold. So you want a nice level temperature, just above freezing, and just enough moisture to keep them plump, but so they're not sitting in wet soil. The final thing, which is really important, is to label them. Oh, it's raining. Come on, Nigel, out the rain. There's a good boy. Cannas need to be kept much more moist than dahlias. I put them in a pot But I don't really want to grow them. This is pure storage. So again, used potting compost will work fine, although actually I like leaf mould. Leaf mould is exactly the right consistency. Right, that's enough. All I'm trying to do is keep the roots moist. I can cut that back because I'm not asking anything of it. I'll keep that leaf going. Put it somewhere coolish, but don't let it dry out. That's really the key to storing cannas. Right, that's the contents of one pot set up, and over the course of the next month, I'll go through the whole garden, lifting the dahlias and the cannas and making sure that they're ready and poised for the very best they can give me next summer. Just a little bit of water for the dahlias. I'm not trying to stimulate them into growth, just keep them moist enough so they don't dry out. But the canna needs a good soak, and give it a water every couple of weeks throughout the winter. Now, if you don't grow dahlias or cannas, here are some other things you can be doing this weekend. Roses are very easy to propagate from hardwood cuttings, and now's the time to do it. Choose a nice straight length of new growth. Divide it into cuttings 6 to 9 inches long, and cut the bottom of each one straight across and the top at an angle. Bury the cuttings in soil to 2/3 to 3/4 of their length. If your ground is heavy, add extra grit. And then leave them there for a full 12 months. Although most pelargoniums will withstand some frost, now's the time to bring them in and store them over winter. They like a cool, dry place, but don't worry too much about light. The idea is to rest them, and then in spring they can be pruned hard, watered, and they'll start to grow again. Any border with spring-flowering herbaceous plants or bulbs can do with a tidy up now. Weed it, cut back any excess foliage, and then mulch. Leaf mould is ideal, but any organic material will do. And then it's ready for flowering early next spring. Now, this last summer, Joe went to visit Esther Rantzen's garden, which is as full of memories as it is of flowers.
Television presenter Esther Rantzen has lived in this idyllic 17th century cottage for the last 30 years. And wrapped around it is a beautiful 2-acre romantic garden. Esther has had an enduring presence on our TV screens. In 1973, she fronted one of the BBC's most successful campaigning consumer shows, That's Life. And she's still going strong, featuring in programmes like Strictly Come Dancing. Being such a busy woman, it's surprising that Esther has much time to manage a garden. But this is beautiful, and obviously a passionate gardener is at work here. Esther, it's a gorgeous garden. In fact, it's got that lovely romantic, naturalistic feel, and one you want to explore too. Is that the philosophy behind it?
Well, I'll tell you what it is. I've been a Londoner for a long time, and in London you get regimented planting. But to come into the country, I felt that you needed to have this exuberance and untidiness. However, it may have gone a little far. So I need a bit of guidance, because I'm aware that, you know, even the most exuberant garden needs boundaries. These were modelled on Monet's garden. You know the arches?
Yes, they're lovely wide arches,
yes,
aren't they?
Yes. And I wanted vistas, I wanted perspective. And you have been going mad, haven't you?
It's been a good year for the roses, as they say.
I think this is rambling rector. Oh, yes, my Lord,
yes.
It rambles.
Well, have you ever heard of a pair of secateurs, Esther?
Oh,
you know, shears and secateurs and stuff. It's got a lovely overgrown feel, but obviously that's what you like, though, isn't it? So
up to a point. You see, it was a farm. It didn't have a garden. And at the beginning, we left it so that this whole area was lawn for children to play and run and play French cricket and do that sort of thing. And it was only when they'd grown past that stage that I actually was lying in the nude there, as is my wont, because that's where the sun stays longest.
Right.
And I thought how lovely it would be to look back at the house, I thought, over water,
Yes.
under arches.
Oh, and there's water here.
There is water here.
I can hear it.
So come
Are
on.
we, can we cross the bridge?
Yeah.
This is one of those sort of gardens, I think, that everybody would love to have. You know, it makes you feel comfortable. It's not full of exotics, and it just sits in the landscape beautifully here.
Well, that was really what we wanted to do. We didn't want to get the feeling that we were in a London park. We wanted to get the feeling that the English countryside was being celebrated here,
Yeah.
alongside, obviously, you know, certain amount of imported gorgeousness.
Well, you're celebrating plants as well. It's all about the plants here, isn't it?
It's all about the plants and the perspectives and the benches. Must have a bench. When you've got a view, put a bench there. Do you want to have a look at Lover's Nook?
Lover's Nook.
Lover's
How could I
Nook.
say no to that?
Indeed. Indeed. We will be passing my father's Copper Beech.
Yes.
Because the thing about this place is it contains so many memories of so many people I've loved and lost, among them my father, so that's his tree.
That's his tree.
This is my attempt at an orchard, but you do need a bit more light. You know, it hasn't got a lot of light here because it's enclosed.
It's very... Oh, I can see, yes. Yes, you are away from all prying eyes here.
Lover's Nook.
Lover's Nook, exactly.
You've seen my gnome, have you?
It's clear the garden holds lots of happy memories for Esther. She started the garden 30 years ago with her late husband Desmond Wilcox as a place to escape.
When Desi and I came here, you know, for a weekend or a couple of weeks or whatever, the last thing we would do, the car would be packed up, we'd be going back to work, we'd have the kids in the car, and we'd grab each other's hands and we'd run round the garden, just so we had photographed in our heads for the week in the city what was happening in the garden, so we could hold it in our heads. Yep.
I mean, this is probably... It's one of the most important things in your life, this
Absolutely,
garden.
absolutely.
You're taking me away from the garden.
Well, not far. This used to be called Mill Hill up here, and it's very breezy, actually. Yeah. This was Desi's idea. He foresaw, he visualised all this and said I was to put a seat up here so he could keep an eye on me.
Are we going in?
Yeah, why not?
Well, that bench looks like the perfect place to
It
look
is.
over.
It's shaped like a hug, isn't it?
Oh, it's lovely. Lovely spot, isn't it?
In fact, this was where he stood when we first saw the cottage and said, this is what we ought to buy, Esther. This will be wonderful for the family.
And I bet you've never regretted a single second
Nope.
since that moment.
No. I know my children feel the same. I hope my grandchildren will too. That's what I hope.
Well, that's it. Bye-bye.